Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who knows how much a hen weighs. It's David Cross.
It's 3 to 4 pounds, right?
Yes, it is.
Oh, genius.
We've been trying to record this episode, David, for probably 2 years.
At least a year and a half. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
a bare minimum 18 months.
Yeah.
And we're doing it. We're
Yeah.
talking Deep Star 6, Sean Cunningham's Abyss, the movie that they made to get ahead of the abyss. You know what's kind of neat, David? Let's say you and I are a couple producers, and all we do is try to get ahead of movies. So, like, let's say there's a movie coming out called, let's see, The Devil Cotton Candy Monster from Dakota, right? And it's going to be like the next big hit in 2025. And then you and I try to get one out before it, like The Devil Fluffy Sugar Man.
The Fluffy Sugar Man is actually a terrifying title for something.
Yeah.
Because it's
But see, if James Cameron was directing the movie, it wouldn't come out for like 3 years. Like, it would be delayed. So you and I wouldn't even have to rush to get it made. So, like, with the Abyss, all the production problems made it really easy for like Leviathan and the Rift and just this movie to just make a really quick film in some water tanks in Malta and dump it in the theaters before the Abyss comes out.
Yeah. And then the Abyss came out and was like, all your money is mine. Because like, yeah, sure. All these movies came out first, but the Abyss is the quintessential underwater base movie. Like, there's no arguing. It's just better than all of these other ones.
There's really no case. So, like, the only case you could make is you like B movies or you like scrappy movies. This is like I like scrappy movies, so I like this movie. I like Leviathan more, but then I like Leviathan more than the Abyss, which seems weird to say because Leviathan is a lot of fun. Peter Weller jump shoots a grenade into a monster's mouth, so I mean, there's nothing better in life than seeing that. But yeah, that's but no, here we are, man. Deep Star 6, Sean Cunningham, a movie that, $8 million budget.
8 million.
8 million. And you know what's crazy is they so during the commentary for this movie, I got the Kino Lorber Blu-ray for this film. I love Kino Lorber, by the way. They talk about how they had a bigger budget originally. So they're like, okay, well, we'll build this big monster because we have a big budget. So they started building the monster first, but then the budget got slashed pretty much in half and their sets got cut in half. So then they were stuck with a gigantic monster who's supposed to slink around an underwater facility in tiny sets. So it just makes me laugh that this kaiju monster is like hiding in 3 feet of water and then it pops up. It's so, and then what's crazy? They built it like with sponge-like material, and on the behind the scenes making of documentary, they put it in the water and it just sunk. So they needed like 20 people with chains to just lift the thing out of the water. And it looks awesome. It looks like a really cool monster, but they couldn't lift it from the bottom of their tanks because it was so heavy. They needed like dozens of grips with chains to lift it up in the air for a 5-second shot.
I also read in Fangoria, so this was in maybe the 1987 edition. No, well, there was a article where someone visited the set, and they said they put airbags underneath it to help make it buoyant.
Yeah, they tried everything. They like tried to put holes in it, like they had to work overnight just to get out of the water.
Yeah, which sounds like you read the same article, or you used to read something that mentioned from the same article, because that's what they were talking about, the scene where the monster comes out of water and everyone's gym is just eaten in half. And yeah, everything broke the night before, and then they worked all night to get it to float the next day.
I feel bad for this production because they had to rush to get it made. They were like, let's get ahead of the Abyss. So that's those giant suits that they had. The Cunningham told this really funny story on the commentary where the guy told them, like, yeah, I got this suit and we can I can do this and I can do that and I can do this, and they're like, oh, okay, cool. So they bring the suit to the set and the guy gets on set and he gets in the suit and he could only do like a quarter of the things that he said he would. And they're like, okay, can you turn around and run? He's like, well, I can stand here and breathe. Like, that's pretty much all he could do. So those giant suits, they were supposed to do more with them, but then they realized how unwieldy they are, and you could just basically stand in them and barely breathe. So they have a monster that's too heavy. They have a budget that's cut in half. They have a tight production deadline, and they have suits that don't work.
And the set that's too small. You want to add some more to this? Eighth or nine draft of the script because of logistics. A director who didn't want to direct it, and the FX team who were not interested in the movie but were interested in the FX. So like, this is a movie that was hamstrung from the start.
And you know what's interesting? Like, I took some timestamps. So the monster makes its first appearance at 29 minutes, barely, and it destroys a ship and eats 2 people. But then it hits another ship, and then it takes 10 minutes to rescue them. And at 48 minutes, that's when the people are able to escape. So like in the middle of the movie, it's basically dedicated to people sitting inside of underwater submersibles with okay, the budget went to sparks, steam, and blinking lights in this movie. There's as a somewhat of a blinking light aficionado of cinema, like I love blinking lights. Like I was watching Crimson Tide the other day, or Hunt for Red October. I'm like, I love these blinking lights. But it's, you're watching this, and it's oh man, it's just a silly little movie. It's very cynical. You get very little of the monster because it's too heavy. But that's what I love, though. I love the stories to read about this, and anything underwater makes me happy. Like, just give me an underwater creature, give me some submersibles, give me some blinking lights. You've made my day. But yeah, this movie it's not, it is what it is. Okay.
You're trying to be positive. Oh, and I can honestly be positive. Let me be positive here. So when I first watched this movie, I watched the first half of it 16 months ago. And then we just so many things came between this. And I had a lot going on in life. I'm married, by the way, everyone. Yeah, thank you. But then I rewatched it and I had a different experience. My first experience was like, oh, this movie's kind of boring, like the first half. And then I watched it a second time. I was like, oh no, I'm totally into this, 100% into this. And what I noticed, what I really thought about the second time was they have a bunch of competent people and the rising tension is very rapid. So competent people put in situations that you do not have the skills to overcome over and over and over again. And I got into it. I actually really liked it.
Nice.
Yeah.
And listen, like, what's crazy in this movie, they built sets, and then they would put them on the back of like semi trucks and drive them around, or like put them on tires and bounce them. Like, this movie had no budget and it didn't have a monster. And you know what? Now that you say it, it is nice watching competent people do okay, the plot is so stock, right? It's a bunch of there's an underwater Navy base, and they are naval facility, and they're doing, like, they've been there for 6 months. They were supposed to be there for 4 months. And what they're testing, like underwater colonization methods. And they're also putting like new nuclear missile storage in the bottom of the ocean.
It's very unclear. Like, the way I saw it was they're putting in missiles on an unstable area for first off, and that scientists were tagging along to study the marine life. Like, but I didn't even know if that's true. I'm not sure.
And but this is trillions of dollars. Trillions of
1980s money.
Yeah. And like, but you're right. And you know what's interesting too is the monster is such a secondary thing in this movie. Like, this monster isn't really malicious. They just go down deep with lights, and then the monster attacks. And then Miguel Ferrara, or Snyder Ferrar, he blows up like megaton nuclear warheads, which messes up their base. This went through some rewrites, David Cross. But like, there's a scene in this movie where they take this pump jack and they like pump it up, and then while people are pumping it up, like the extender, there's someone welding it into the ground. I'm like, this is good teamwork. It's moments like that where this movie shines, I think. But the whole idea of like, we gotta hurry, and no, we can't push it, we gotta study, and it's just such stock silly stuff. But it's a creature feature, and I don't care. It's lovely. And a guy's face melts, not really melts, it decompresses and just bleeds everywhere, which is pretty great. The KMB boys did that. But
there's some great gore in this, honestly. Like, the only thing I wish is that there was something like that in the first 40 minutes, like the two guys who end up disappearing after going down into the hole. Like if you showed one of them like something happening to them, would have been good. But like let's run through the mechanic, the death scenes here.
Hodges and Osborne, right?
Yeah,
They're
you don't see anything
nothing.
like nothing. But then you have the doctor getting hit.
Bersiaga.
I'm not sure the
Yeah.
names in this movie. I cannot remember any of them other than Snyder.
Dr. Bersiaga.
Yeah, he gets hit in the face with a novel or
A nozzle?
a trunk,
A
which
big
is
book?
which is a novel way to die. Which I was like, oh, this is pretty fun. And then he bleeds out, which is real, you know, pretty sad. The captain dying was terrifying, truly terrifying.
He gets
Like,
smashed.
yeah, that is scary. Another doctor getting blown up with
Oh,
a
yeah.
air pump
Richardson.
gun.
What Richardson gets bitten in half, right?
Yeah,
Then Scarpelli goes down like a chump. They say Scarpelli 18 times in the beginning of this movie. I found the transcript. And I'm like, how many times do they say Scarpelli? It's 18 times, right? And then what? Van Gelder gets accidentally killed by Snyder.
yeah, which is something I've never seen on screen before, and I liked it. And then after that, it's electrocution, death by electrocution. But there's like really good ideas in this. It's just it took an hour to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
feels like a first draft of Deep Rising.
I feel like they wanted more creature mayhem. They wanted bigger sets, but at the end of the day, I think this is the problem. When you are making a cheap knockoff of a movie to beat another movie to the theaters, you need to maybe go the what Olympus Has Fallen route with Gerard Butler when they just go in tight corridors. Then like they're not trying anything really excessive. They're just like we're going to be violent as hell. This movie, I think, was a little bit too ambitious in it, but I think it needed to realize that it was a movie designed to beat another movie to the theater, if that makes sense. Like
Mhm.
it needed to be uh, more streamlined and more fun. But I think this one is a little serious. All the acting's fine though. Like all the acting's fine. All uniformly across the board, it's good. But it's just too much. Like it's just we're in an underwater facility. There's a giant monster. That's it. Like we don't need more. Just competent. Like it's underwater, right? Underwater starts immediately, and then it's competent people trying to survive. So I think if they would have gone that route, they would have been better off. But also, every scene that they have to put water in a tank, every scene that they have a monster, that's money, and they didn't have a lot of money. So it's a like, what do you do? But maybe you don't write that type of like film, if that makes sense. Maybe you make it more of a chamber piece. So all around, it's an interesting watch, and I'll watch it again if it's on TV. I'll keep it on, but it's just an interesting. It's all you're right. You know when a movie's all there, but it's not there, but then you
Mhm.
still like it because of what it is. Like there's no creature feature I won't watch. Like so it's yeah, but there's a lot more to talk about than I thought there would be. Like
Yeah, there is. So what I was thinking when you were talking is I think the lesson here is something that Hollywood needs to relearn every 10 years. Don't make water movies. I mean, Jaws was way over. There's this movie. You
Waterworld.
have Waterworld. Like, unless you have a lot of money, don't make movies with water.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I think that's why Deep Blue Sea worked. Like they had problems with crickets and everything, but they went to the Titanic sets. It had a good budget. It had, Rennie Harlan was being watched by the producers, and they did it really smart, and it looks beautiful. But it also had 80 million, $70 million budget. It didn't have an $8 million budget for this. So it's yeah, and what's crazy too is I feel like this crew, when they were during the commentary, I heard nothing about weather. I heard nothing about, you know, anything like waves or tsunamis. No sets got destroyed. It's just a lot of work. And even if the situation's perfect, it's really hard to add water. Like it's just, like, no matter what you do, it's going to be difficult. Like, but you know what's funny about Jaws, right? He wanted to make it scary. He didn't want to use tanks, and you're on the ocean, and you were completely naive to that. In Waterworld, they went to a place in Hawaii where they like called it like Thunder Bay, and and they didn't scout it that well, and then they realized that they could barely get out to sea, And also they went to Hawaii, which is probably what the most expensive state to live in the United States because everything has to get imported. So I mean, all these decisions that were made were bad. And I kind of feel like this movie didn't make a lot of those, not bad. They were naive or they were ambitious. I think this one just didn't have enough money. That's it. Like they just, and it was a little too ambitious.
Yes, because I mean, I read about how the original script was thought of as like $100,000, like a tiny, tiny thing. It's supposed to be the thing, but in water. And this is not that.
No, no. But that could have worked though.
Mm-hmm.
The thing in water.
Yeah, yeah. I just keep coming back to this movie had a lot of stuff stacked against it, and it still came out pretty good in my opinion. It was fun.
I mean, listen, it looks good. The blinking lights are incredible. The performances are all good. Like you have a good cast here. But like you said, it takes a very long time to get started. Like 48 minutes in is when they rescue them from that sub. And then the monster slides in and you see it for about 2 minutes, 2 minutes of screen time. But like when the whole electrocution scene, when when Diana Norris is electrocuting the thing, like that looks awesome. Like she's I don't know, like, but I think she probably could just ran away because that thing was so slow.
I mean, Kurtzman and Nicotero did the FX, right?
Yep.
So like, of course it's gonna look great.
It looks awesome. And also too, like, they use a flare gun at the end. They use gasoline, they blow up the monster. I don't know how the guy gets behind the boat. Remember when she's like, "Where'd he go?" And then he's 20 feet behind the boat.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah.
He held his breath for a really long time. Yeah, so I wanted to run through like some of my thoughts when I was watching the movie. And these are just sort of in order of me going down through it, Mark. And I think you could spark some conversation here. The first thing is that I know this director. He did Friday the 13th, which is my comfort movie that I watch all the time. You and I have done a bunch of stuff on it. But the first thing I thought when I was watching this was there's no nudity in this movie.
Yeah.
Which is wild for the director because he did porn, right? The closest you get is Scarpelli's like crunches, working real hard. And I'm actually shocked by that. I thought he would try to get some nudity in here.
It's like a rowing machine she's on.
Yeah. And not only that, I thought Scarpelli was the main character. I'm not kidding. I thought she was like in to be the main character, and then she dies just randomly.
I mean, she seems like the most interesting one. She seems to pop on screen. She pops on screen, The other ones are very serious in this movie. Like, who is it? It's like McBride, right? Like he's
the man with the best beard ever.
Man, that thing is manicured.
Mm-hmm.
That thing's crazy.
And he's been in the water for 6 months. He got the best beard.
I mean, you know what though? You're underwater for 6 months, so you probably need to keep to a very strict grooming routine to keep yourself sane. Does that make sense?
I get it. You want a routine just a day in and day out.
But
you're not seeing the sunlight.
But this movie takes place over a couple days, right? Now we never see him shave, so he doesn't have that 5 o'clock shadow. He just seemingly grows hair in that beard area, which
and manicures it.
Yeah, but he's fine. But then he's in a relationship, and I don't know, like he's in a relationship with Collins. Yeah, Joyce Collins. But then she's pregnant,
and she's also a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, she's a Navy SEAL pregnant. He's a kind of a loner, like surfer who just travels the world and takes odd jobs. And then you get a monster, and then you get nuclear warheads. Yeah, there's a lot. This is sort of a creature feature by the numbers. I was making a joke the other day when we were doing on Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. We were talking about deep fear, where you just need certain elements in a movie. So you have a monster, and then you have underwater naval base, and then they rush it, but then the characters have to have a will to survive. But then you toss in a romance, and then you have a pregnant person. Like it just seems like paint by the numbers with creature features. But it's just odd little subplots. Like I like Deep Rising because there's a robbery and everything, but there's none of that. It's just people on jet skis killing each other and being cheeky, which is fun.
They know what they are.
Yeah. Listen, David, though, I want to say I'm hating on this movie, but it features underwater action, and it features dry for wet action scenes where they just add a bunch of fog to make it look like the piranha thing that we talked about, and it still has a lot. There's little miniatures, and I don't know. Anytime you add those, it makes me happy. So it's not a total wash per se. Like the movie doesn't totally sink, but
Yeah.
it's just
I Mark, I think this is an odd position for us because usually you're the one who's like really into it, and I'm over here like, no, I like it, and then you're like, I'm lukewarm on it.
like you know, it's just a lot of people looking at Blinking Lights. This movie,
Mhm.
it's like Blinking Lights the movie,
Yeah.
which is fine. But I guess the whole budget, like, but I mean, when you have $8 million and you got to do all the underwater scenes, but everything looks great. Like, I love the sets, I love the work they put into it. You know, the guy who designed the monsters, Chris Wallace, who worked on The Fly, which is pretty incredible, and then Mark Shostrom, like he was a big name in the industry, or he was building his name. So like, it's all. I think they made a good movie, not a good movie. I think the movie makes sense. How's that?
Yeah.
But I don't know why
Makes sense.
I don't know why there's nuclear warheads that blow up, because I'm not sure what that affects.
Timing. I think they it's there because of timing. They could have easily just had the base shift in the water and then it was filling up and they couldn't stop it. They didn't need the warheads. But that's neither here nor there.
But I love it
Uh
though, because the guy blows up warheads. And he's like, "You idiot!" But
he
wait. What was Snyder supposed to do? I feel like Snyder didn't do anything wrong here, right? I think Snyder's like, okay, I'm going to go follow protocol. And he follows the exact protocol, does it, and then everyone screams at him.
Yeah. I mean, aggression or natural. I probably would have said natural, honestly. Fish are natural. Yeah. Some other things I wanted to continue talking about here. The soundtrack is odd. Soundtrack is like a documentary trying to show you the wonders of the ocean. It's like it's beautiful. It's very Captain Nemo. And then I'm like, doesn't match with all the blood, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I, I wonder if they probably just didn't have time. I mean, I don't.
Budget. It's almost all down to budget, I think. Almost all
Mhm.
down to budget. Let's talk about the wardrobe. There are some fantastic wardrobe stuff in here. I'm going to mention two things that I was like, I don't understand these, but they're fun. So is it Joyce? She is
Nancy
the
Everhard. Yeah.
yeah, that's Nancy Everhard. Where they're in the mini location, she's wearing like yellow and red, like sweatpants. And I was like, that's a choice. But I guess if you're underwater all that time, you just get comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I mean, I guess it would make sense to wear uniforms every day to keep a structure. But yeah, these guys definitely don't have that. They all have their own personalities. Like the guys in the submarine, one of them has his Mack truck hat on.
That's the other one I was going to point out.
His facial hair, he doesn't have a mustache. He has the lower beard. He has the chin. He has a literal chin strap.
Yeah, it's a chin strap, but it's more. It's like the evolved chin strap.
Yeah, it has some flair to it. And they should never let characters chew gum in movies. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, are you more terrified of going underwater or into space?
Water.
Water, 100%. There's no question, right?
Yeah. Listen, I'm taking deep space because there's no sharks up there. And no, I don't know. Just being on the ocean, no matter where being in a swimming pool, when I'm on a tube, I'm like, something's going to eat me. So, I mean, I'd rather see space. Like, I feel like that's more, well, I mean, if I could be in the Mariana Trench and find an ancient civilization, then perish, that's cool. But if I could just see the Earth and then have like a gravity situation, that seems better to me than a underwater thing. So I'm going to take that.
Yeah, I'm terrified of the deep ocean. And I just listened to James Cameron. He's like, don't screw with this.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like there's some things you just can't control and some things you don't want to run up against. And yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff down there we don't know about. But I mean, and they mess with the ocean here and they get attacked from a giant crab monster. Or the term for it is a Diplodon.
Diplodon.
Yeah, Diplodon.
Huh. I just called it underwater grabber.
Underwater grabber.
It's like, I don't know. It's like, this is underwater grabber. Okay.
What do you think about sonar scenes or radar scenes when it's like 200 yards? It's coming. Like Godzilla missile, like missiles. Like, what do you think about those scenes? We're like, oh man, it's 200 yards. It's 150 yards. it's 100 yards. Like, what do you think about those scenes? Aliens has them. This
Yeah.
one has it. Like,
Yeah.
what do you like about those scenes?
They mostly don't work. The reason it they don't, but the reason it works in Aliens is a very specific reason. Is because they know that they have locked themselves in a location, right? And they're like, we're safe. And it when they cross the barrier, then you're like, oh no, you're not safe. Right. And this thing, it's like there is no notion of being safe. It's just coming and it's big and it's gonna hit you. So it's
Mhm.
just explaining what's already happening on the screen.
That's a great point. Yeah, because that I mean that's why it works, right? They go under and above the
Mm-hmm.
aliens. The guns take them out, they evolve, and then you're like, holy crap, now they're close. So it's not just
Yeah.
radar for radar's sake or sonar for sonar's sake. That's
Yeah.
interesting. I will say I love it in Battleship when they're doing the sonar and they're playing Battleship with it. When listen, I'm an unapologetic Battleship fan. And when they start playing Battleship in the middle of the movie, I just I almost ran around the theater. I
Yeah.
did, David. I almost picked somebody up and sprinted around going, this is a $250 million movie and they're playing Battleship with
Yeah.
aliens.
And slow motion alien boxing, which I've never seen in any other movie.
Oh, I love it. And you got Jesse Plemons, Rihanna, just playing Battleship with an alien ship.
I think the other thing I want to talk about this movie, particularly this movie, is Snyder. I think he's the most interesting character in the movie.
Hmm.
I think he pops more than anyone else. And when he dies, you like lose tension in the film.
Because what? He's the boss. He's the
Well,
we gotta hurry. Like what do you like about him the most?
he feels like super realistic, right? Like he's trying his best. He's following procedure. Things keep getting screwed up. He doesn't want to be there. And when he dies, there's really no internal tension with the group.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. He, yeah, well, he just leaves everyone behind and then he decompresses,
Mm-hmm.
which I love. Yeah, but like, why does everyone yell at him? Like, remember that scene in the beginning? They leaves him a tape. He's like, "Is it moist? Is it wet? Is it fun? Is it dirty?" Like, he seems to have. He definitely has the most personality. You know what's funny? Whenever I talk to people about this movie, Snyder's the one everybody talks to. Oh, Snyder's death, yo, or Snyder, because
Yeah.
once again, what did he do wrong? Does he do anything wrong in this movie? He's a brat.
He he follows instructions. He does try to escape or leave everyone to die, but he's also highly competent. That's the thing. Like they're like, go do this, go do this, and you know what? He does it. Like at the beginning,
Yeah.
they're like, what are we gonna do without you? He's like, you would drown, and pretty much it's true.
And they talk so much smack to him, like, do it now, Snyder. I don't care. And then Snyder does it. And then he does it well. I feel bad for him. Like he's the one character like yeah, he's the one character with you're like, who is this guy? Like why? Like he's sassy, he has a sleeveless shirt. He's I don't know. I like Snyder. How would you rank these characters?
Oh, interesting. I mean, I think Snyder's the most interesting. I think Scarpelli is also interesting. So Snyder, Carpelli, Everhard, Joyce was the character, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it gets like kind of whatever. I don't really find the main lead very. He's a blank slate. There's like nothing there.
Yeah. Well, just the beard.
Yeah, the beard, the Mr. Beard. Yeah, there's nothing there. And after that, I don't really care. Like, I guess the doctor would be the next up. She seemed to be, pretty interesting.
Yeah, she's cool. She's just down there. And then she legit tries to electrocute a giant monster, a Duplodon, which makes me happy. But I think yeah, if the movie was Scarpelli and Snyder, like she wants to study things, he's kind of a maniac. I think it could work then. But yeah, I mean, what is a like why like what lead are they trying to copy here with Greg? Let's see, Greg Evigan as McBride. Like, what are they trying to get across with this guy?
He's well, honestly, it feels like a little bit of a male Ripley that they didn't flesh out. They're like too scared to do it, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's just nice and
Yeah.
has a great beard.
Because it feels like they wanted to make Everhard the main character, but then didn't commit to it.
And then you thought Scarpelli was going to be the lead
I did. I
character.
100% thought she was going to end up being like the quote final girl or final woman. Um,
And
I was
and
way wrong on that.
do you think everyone on set realized Snyder was strong? Like Miguel Ferrer? Like he's just he's always good in movies. Like I love him in Hot Shots
He's good
Part
in
2.
everything. He's
Yeah.
good in everything he does.
So I think
Uh,
they probably realized he had the hot hand, so they gave him more to do.
I think it's just more fun to write bad guys.
Yeah.
It's more, as a writer, it's more interesting to write the bad guys.
But you know what's interesting in him as a bad guy? Like he's a punk, right? He's kind of what's the word? Oh, and also too, I just want to say, going back to the red and yellow, that's smart for the color palette because it's all primary colors in this movie. It's red, yellow, blue, like a lot of the design. So at least they put some thought into that, and they made her seem very comfy. I just want to put that out there because there's a lot of the primary colors in there. I totally lost my chain of thought. But I also want to say, Everhard got jacked in this movie. She's got some shoulders, man. She's like, I wonder if she worked. I wonder if she thought she would be the Ripley type of character in this movie.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the problem. Just there just needs to be more specificity in like it's kind of the whole problem with the movie. But who is the lead? Is everyone the lead? Like what is happening?
Can I ask you a stupid question? Why does, when you have an ensemble and you have an ensemble creature feature, so I think Crocodile has a bunch of interesting characters. I think Alien has a bunch of interesting characters. Piranha has some good characters. What makes, like, what's the distribution of characters in a creature feature to make them interesting? Now, this is a big question. I gave you no prep, but why do some move, like, and not just say the script, like, but why do some movies work really well with their ensemble, and why are some ensemble pieces just they never gel? And I wouldn't say it's a problem with
it's just
actor.
noise.
Yeah, like, but it's like, what would you say? Like Deep Rising, everyone's cheeky, right? There's no. Are there any serious? Well, there are a couple serious characters in Deep Rising. I think the mercenaries. Some of them are very serious. So then you have the joke guys, and then you have the serious people, and so you don't have all quips. If it was all quipsters, it would be really annoying. In Alligator, just everyone pops an alligator, do they not? Like
They
an
do.
alligator,
Yeah.
like, I feel like there's a lot of pop for them. Balloons just went up on your screen, by the way.
I don't understand it.
That's really
Pop.
interesting. Pop? Did I say pop?
I don't know.
But
I mean, there are people who are treated like balloons in this movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. But I don't know. It's a big question, but I think in these movies, the characters' names. They have their moments. There's a even distribution of seriousness to not serious people. Like I think Lake Placid doesn't work too well because everyone's quippy in it.
Yeah.
Like everyone's a jokester in that movie, which doesn't.
That movie's for freshmen in high school. All right, so you're asked this big question, like why do some ensembles don't work? And I think the real question you're asking me is why don't the characters themselves don't work?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's, I think that comes down to the intention of the character. And I'm going to pick on what is one of my favorite series of all time a little bit, is Friday the 13th, because we're talking about Cunningham. A lot of the characters in those movies are created specifically for death, and they're not giving any motivation. And so characters in movies and ensembles, when you have to have the characters have some type of motivation or some type of personality before you kill them, it makes their death better. And a counterexample of this, the thing that I immediately popped in my head is Freddy vs. Jason, particularly the cornfield scene, where like no one cares about those guys drinking booze, right, just chugging, and they get immediately killed. Or the well, I guess that's the best one. The second one I was going to talk about was the triple-headed kill in Jason Lives. Yeah, and even with that one, there was a precursor scene setting up the characters like, I hate my boss, which is something that's very relatable. And then they all die anyway. But you can relate to someone being forced to go do something and get their head cut.
Yeah, because that movie is really, it's in Friday the 13th regards, that's a good movie with quote unquote good characters for, fodder to be murdered, but they do pop and you do remember them and they do have personality.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You just got to give them something relatable or some type of goal, so then you feel bad when they die.
And then this movie, a lot of them are just stereotypes or
archetypes.
Yeah. Just one of them we got to go. We got to keep going. We got to keep going. Like just Van Gelder, right? He's just very Like, we got to keep moving. We got to move fast. And then Scarpelli's like, no, we need to study these caves. And then she has her boyfriend, Richardson, he's a nice dude, but he actually has one nice moment where he's like, hey man, I knew you and the captain were friends. Like that's a bummer. Like that's like a pretty human moment. I kind of liked him.
I liked him too, but it's a very odd scene. You don't go plunder the captain's quarters for a picture immediately after he dies.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the concept there. It's like,
yes,
you know what I mean? It's kind of this whole movie. I appreciate the concept across the board.
And so I think, yeah, they don't have, I think, you know what's interesting about Deep Rising? When you bring in mercenaries, their goal is to be a mercenary and steal it. So when they're killed off in Deep Rising, that's what's going to happen because they're mercenaries. So they don't really need to have character motivations because they're there to steal from the boat and then they die doing it, which makes sense. But yeah, like it's like I love the captain, but his whole thing is like, I'm just gonna, like, oh, like you need to get with that woman. Like like she's too good for you and you need to get over yourself. And then he sacrifices himself. Like it's very, as a character, he doesn't register. But once again, the acting's fine. But also, this wasn't the goal for this movie. So, okay, David, since this was supposed to be a $8 million like movie to attempt to get ahead of Abyss, is it successful?
I would say yes. I would think so. Yeah. I mean, it came out first. The whole point of this is literally Cunningham was like, he was only aware of Leviathan, came out in the same year, came out in March. He was like, we want to be first. And guess what? They got it out first. It came out in January. Leviathan came out in March, and then the other ones came out the rest of the other parts of that year. So I think it is successful in some way. The problem with these type of things, like I actually think they should release closer to the big blockbuster movie, like a week or two beforehand, if you're trying to make money, if you're trying to confuse people, because I mean, that's how all the transmogrifiers work, right? They come out just really close to when Transformers come out. There you go. But yeah, I think you should have waited. I don't think being first is it's like all it's cracked up to be.
And also by being first, you release yourself in January, which is traditionally the dumping ground. Like remember back in the day, I don't know if it's so much anymore, but August and January were the bad months. So you wanted your big blockbusters to drop in July or late July. There are exceptions, 99 had some exceptions, but for the most part, like mid to late August was the dumping grounds for what was left in movies. And then January too. Everyone talks about movies released in January. It's like I think Underwater was dumped into theaters in January. Like I feel like January's, so you rush to get ahead of everybody, but then when you get ahead of everybody and you're released in January, which is traditionally the dumping ground of movies. So it's, but you know what though? This is 8 mil. I guarantee you that the international rights, the TV rights, the VHS tapes are being sold for a decent amount now because of that Top Gun Pepsi ad. So the VHS tapes were readily available. They could probably sell it to cable stations, get international distribution. They made $8 million worldwide on the theater. They didn't break even probably because of PR and print and commercials and stuff. But this made its money back overall, I would have to say. I mean, 8 million, make 8 million in theaters, sell your distribution rights. So it was profitable. So someone looking to make a quick buck, I think they did it.
Which is Cunningham's whole thing. Like he makes the Pepsi of other movies, right?
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Like so he did a version of Debbie Does Dallas when he was doing porn. He did Friday the 13th, which is a knockoff of Halloween. He did this movie, which is Aliens in the Abyss. Like he did, was it Manny's? He did something with a baseball team, which is Bad News Bears. Like this is who he is, right? He just finds something, goes at it fast and cheap.
And this one, what's interesting? This one has a bit of this one looks good though. The sets look good. This is an interesting, because I don't think any of the sets look bad. I think the monster looks good. I think the performance, like this one feels like a prestige knockoff.
Yeah, it does, which is crazy to me when I went and read the original reviews from when the movie came out. By the way, those are hard to find. Like I read the New York Times one and I read the Los Angeles one, and they both like say the monster doesn't look good. And I'm like, really? I think the monster looks pretty good.
Yeah, like if you pause it on the monster when it opens its mouth and just like that looks cool, but it's too big.
It is. It's 22 feet long, and I just laughed so hard when it came in through a circle that's like 2 feet wide, 3 feet wide. I'm like, What?
There's another movie that takes place in an underwater facility, and it's called Deep Blue Sea 2. And that movie has no budget. And I hated it at first, and I love it now. But they realized they had no budget, so they just made the monsters the babies of the
So
bull
smart.
shark, the genetically modified bull shark. It's the babies. So you have a bunch of babies running amok in the water. You rarely even see them too. You just see bubbles, just like they're running around like a baby gang, just eating people's legs, and they're like, ah! Like this movie could have had a baby Diplodon, or okay, the Diplodon attacks, right? Hits the thing, destroys something, something gets loose, they fall in, they open up the airlock, and a bunch of tiny Diplodons come in. So you don't have a 30-foot monster that has to hide in 2 feet of water. You have multiple Diplodons attacking. Does that make sense?
I mean, I assume there were multiple ones of them because the one inside the base died. And the second, and I thought that was the second one who attacked him up the top because it's trapped in the base. Like, how's it going to get out? Uh, that's, that's my thought.
Leviathan has the same end. Have you seen Leviathan?
I have not. I have not.
Oh man, it's the same thing. It's just, but that's more of a thing on a boat, an underwater thing. Yeah, it handled its budget better. Like it's shot in Malta too, which I love. The tanks there. Yeah.
I have some questions for you and some stuff before you get to our draft. Right? I'm excited about our draft. So the first one is like this has a 50% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. What do you think about that?
15?
15.
Okay, so 15%. I guess that is, man, I don't think that's I think this needs like a 33. This I think if more people watch this movie in context and wrote about what it was, then I think it would have a higher thing. But I don't think it's a successful creature feature either. But it's still, it should not be fresh. It shouldn't be near fresh. It shouldn't be above 40. If it was like 43, I'd be like, what? So yeah, I think it's low, but I don't think it's unjust.
Yeah, it's 2.5 on Letterboxd out of 5, I believe.
That's better.
But that'd be 50. That's 50%.
That seems better than 15 though.
It is. I would say this is like, I'd actually say it is around 40, 30, 35 to 40 range. And then that's fine. We do a lot of movies like that.
Like, Deep Rising though, I don't know why the score is in the 30s. Like that
no idea.
It's weird. Clue. It's odd. And this one though, yeah. I mean, but here's the thing. This movie, we watch a lot of movies. And this one, the sets look good. The acting, I think, is uniformly good. It's like you said, it's competent people going through. It just doesn't click all the way. It doesn't hit on every cylinder.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's better than a 15%.
Yeah. So the second thing I wanted to mention here is that it's a follow-up on your mention that this movie was made to make Abyss. And I was trying to figure this out because I was like, oh, why did all these water movies come out within 1989 to, what is it, 95? Something like that, but particularly 89. And one hypothesis that I found was that the Titanic wreckage was found in 85. And then National Geographic did a documentary about it in 87. So everyone was really excited about the Titanic. And people were trying to ride that wave of like underwater excitement.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it to agree or disagree, but that's just a hypothesis that I found. I mean, it sounds good, but I'm really not sure.
Like, let's think about Aliens, right? Someone watch Aliens and they're like, okay, Aliens is awesome. And then there's this Titanic thing underwater. Hey, underwater mayhem.
Underwater aliens.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you just roll with it. And then you build some sets, you dunk some things in some water tanks, you build some miniatures, you got an underwater movie. It's that easy.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get the reasoning. And this is something else and not totally related to this movie, but I think it's interesting. I'd like to talk to you about it. So when I was younger, like everyone our age, we would go to Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, all that stuff. This movie was one of the movies that I always wanted to rent, and I was not allowed to do it because it was, horror. If it was a horror was on TV, I could 100% watch it, but I couldn't rent it because, my parents want to get the things they want to watch. So the movies that were also on the list of things that I never actually got to watch, and I was really attracted to the cover, Deep Space with a skeleton floating in space. I'm sure that's Aliens, another Alien ripoff. Cyborg with Jean-Claude Van Damme, still never seen it. And then Leviathan. And this is only based off the box art or all the movies I wanted to watch.
I mean, that's you got to watch Leviathan. You got to watch Leviathan. It's good. Okay, is it good?
I don't know.
It's okay. Whenever I watch Leviathan, I'm like, but then when I think about Leviathan, I love it.
Conceptually good.
Yeah, because it's a sea monster, man. I'll later on today, I'll be thinking about DeepStar Six, and I'll be like, I love that movie. So it's just anything with water, I adore. And also, so I want to give props to the cinematographer in this movie, Mac Allberg, because I've covered several of his movies. Like I just bought Parasite from Kino Lorber as well. But this is a guy who shot Ghoulies. He did Reanimator. He shot House, the 1985 cult classic horror film. This guy like shot House 2, Deep Star 6, and he did Arena. He did House 3. He did Robot Jocks, which makes me really happy. And like he also shot Innocent Blood, Striking Distance, Beverly Hills Cop 3. Brady, he shot the Brady Bunch movies. He shot Good Burger, which is quite odd. But no, this guy, I'm telling you, it's well lit. You watch this movie. This is one of the strangest let's make a movie in 6 days knockoffs because it actually looks good. Like I love the shots in it. And I don't know. But also too, when you don't have that much time like, when you're dealing water gags. So what do you think? 1-2 takes. So I think in this movie, like, I don't know, there's a scene right between McBride and oh man, I forgot her name already. McBride and Collins. And like they're both kind of like looking in profile, and the rack focus work is really nice. It's just there's a weird this thing. Maybe you know why this maybe doesn't work. This isn't one of my top tier favorite creature features. Is because it's so unbalanced. Like the story is very stock, the characters are stock. It looks good. There's some good shots. Like my brain can't like maybe my brain just can't. Okay, well that's cool, but that's a dumb idea. Or that monster isn't even lifted up right now. Who is this guy? Oh, that shot looks good. So it's a movie that doesn't flow too well.
Yeah,
because it's either like a lot of like alligators uniformly good, right? And you can just roll with it. But then there's those movies that are good, kind of bad. They're not don't really office or anything, and you kind of feel it feels like a roller coaster of a movie that you can never fully gel with. So maybe that's why I have a problem.
that's a good point. It's a bunch of really talented craftsmen who don't really have any passion for it.
Absolutely. And also one thing I've noticed is that when productions are under duress, like if there is, Poseidon, that movie was just they had to make it very fast to hit a deadline, and they had tons of water effects. And I think the actors in that movie were just trying to survive day to day. They didn't worry about the script because they're like, we just need to shoot today. I think with this movie, the budget got cut, the monster didn't work. You were just sitting in a pool all day trying to work this monster. And I don't think the script was important. I just think they didn't have time to think about the script. They're like, okay, we need to get this monster up. Like we need to have a monster in this movie. We need to figure out how to make this thing work. Like with, we need to get it in. We need to work on all these sparks. We need to work on all this smoke. We need to make sure the actors are safe. We need to make sure the camera's safe. We need to make sure the lighting doesn't blow people up. We need to make sure we rig this set on this truck so it doesn't fall off. And so I think when you have these productions that are low on budget sometimes, and you just have to go, I think they're just not worried about the script. Like the script is fine. The script is fine. The characters are fine, but we don't have time to make this Aliens. We don't have time to make this Mad Max Fury Road. We just have time to do what we have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, put it on USA Today. Call it.
Like,
because that's what it is. It's a slightly more than a made for TV movie.
Yeah, right. And people talk about the greatness of Mad Max, but there's so much downtime in that movie, and there's so much room for characters with people just sitting around. Like and there's a huge budget too. So it's unfair to compare this to bigger budget movies like The Abyss with a lot of character development, because you can't do that on these. I'm telling you, man, you just got to go. Like you just got to move. Unless you have, like a sales writing alligator or a really good director or more money. But yeah, I think on this one, people are just like, okay, we just need to go flick these lights and let's move. So I understand why it is what it is, if that makes sense. We shouldn't expect anything great out of this. And so I think what we do get's fine.
Yeah, I think it's a little more than fine, but I agree with you.
But yeah, I guess to expect the abyss is unfair. We need to expect, we need to tamp in, like lower our expectations and just know what we're watching, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this is Ghost Ship. Going with low expectations.
I guess my problem is though Piranha, right? And yeah, but Ghost Ship's crazy and it has that early 2000s aggressiveness and like there's really bloody stuff and it's kind of dumb and it's like a pretty interesting plot too. So
Have you ever covered that?
I haven't, but
I
I
know
think
I know you and you I know Megan loves it.
yeah,
So that's a if you want to someone else to join you for that one, I'd talk about it.
yeah, we should. And John Pogue, the writer of the director of Deep Blue Sea, wrote it. So that's pretty cool. But it's I think Piranha and Alligator sort of are outliers in how cheeky and good and fun they are.
Mhm.
Like they were made for just as cheap and they work. So I guess when you watch this movie, you got to know that there are similar films that do really work.
Just not underwater.
Yeah, just not underwater, and they're rare. Like it's a very rare for these movies to excel. So, I think based on all things considered, this movie's good.
Mhm. So, Mark, before we jump into our draft, which I'm very excited about, again, I want to mention one final thing.
Uh-oh.
So, the doctor, Sydney Pickett, I believe that's the actress. Does she look familiar to you?
She's a mom from something.
She is a mom from something, a movie that we've covered.
Ferris Bueller. No, she's a mom. Oh yeah, she is the mom from Ferris Bueller. Where is she from? No. Oh, son-in-law.
She's the mom and son-in-law, a movie that I love to death.
That's amazing.
Yeah, good job wheezing the juice there, bud.
Oh man, she has quite the resume though. I mean, she works.
Yeah, I mean that's all of them pretty much. All the actors, like I was like, they all get the that guy award because I'm like, I've seen you in stuff, but I don't know who you are, except Miguel Ferrer, who's in RoboCop, right? So like,
Yeah.
you know immediately who he is, and Night Flyer and The Stand. And by
Hot
the way,
Shots
he's
Bardot.
yeah, and he's also the co-creator of Comet Man for Marvel. Like, dude was amazing. Like, he did pass away in the late teens.
But like he's the one, I think he's kind of the shining light in this movie as far as
100%.
characters. And so, but I mean, he's also a good actor. But he also has an interesting arc too. Like he's not just the stock guy, because he could be easily evil, right? He could have blown up the things himself because he's a brat, but instead he follows rules and everyone yells at him. So it's an interesting role.
Yeah.
Are we gonna jump to our draft now?
Let's jump to our draft. Let's do it.
So what is it, David? Can you take you want to tell everyone?
So I suggested that we draft underwater bases in honor of this movie. And Mark, please let me know if you disagree with you on this. It was really hard to come up with a bunch of underwater bases. So we expanded it to like underwater locations, I would say.
Yeah, and cities and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And Mark, I'm gonna let you go first. I feel like you never get the opportunity to go first.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm gonna lose because of this pick, but I'm gonna take Achilles from Deep Blue Sea 2.
So I haven't seen it, but that's awesome.
So Deep Blue Sea is about this guy who is trying to genetically modify bull sharks so that he can utilize their brain proteins to fight the oncoming AI robot battle.
That sounds odd.
Yeah, and the thing is, it doesn't have much of a budget, the movie, so they use the same sets over and over. They just use different lighting, like red, green, blue, and the Achilles outside is just the barest minimum of sets that they plopped on a South African studio's water tank. But it is perfect. So yeah, I'm gonna take Achilles from Deep Blue Sea 2.
Okay. I have to take this just for the movie, a movie that I believe was criminally underseen and has since grown a cult following. I know you know what this is, Mark.
Underwater.
Go watch Underwater right now. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, what are you doing? Like it's you don't know, people watch it and like it's too much like Alien. I'm like, Alien robbed from so many movies. Like you watch like Planet of the Vampire, you watch all these different movies and you see the DNA of Alien and many things that came before it. So by saying it's too much, like, it's just annoying. Everything borrows from each other, David. Like it's such a, I love it. I love underwater and so economical and fast.
Mm-hmm. With some gnarly deaths too.
I interrupted you, but you know how much I care about that movie. So I had
Yeah.
oh, perfect. And like K Stew's just crushing it in it. Like it's just she's so good. Like I'm a big fan of that movie. All right, so I'm gonna take the underwater base in GI Joe: The Rise of Cobra
I forgot about that movie.
because it's absurd. Have you seen it?
Yeah. I have seen both of those movies, but well, I guess there's more than two. I've seen the first two, but I haven't seen after that. Yeah, I remember actually like digging the second movie. I was like that there's a scene where everyone's like flying around on cords. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
Well, listen, our guy Stephen Summers, who we've talked about a lot with the Mummy series and what Deep Rising, he
and yeah,
yeah, and he directed it, and it's just big. So it's underneath the water. It's gigantic. There's an underwater sea battle, and it's like in Antarctica. And the way that they destroy it is like blowing up ice chunks and icebergs that just fall for some reason, even though they were floating. Just fall and destroy it. Like it's just the logistics of that base are mind-boggling. So
yeah.
I had to take it because it's a beautiful underwater base.
Okay, so it's my turn again. I am going to push the boundaries here, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. I can't believe I'm doing this. NYC from Underworld. It's this underwater city. It's the mariner sees when he goes underwater.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's an underwater city. Like it might not be inhabited at the moment.
It's a city that's literally underwater.
And I also always kind of think like there's probably like more evolved mariners like deeper in the water.
Yeah. That movie, it's like it's still pretty much intact. I feel like everything would have, I don't know. I don't know how that works. There's monsters everywhere. There's underwater cities. It's perfect. You got it. I love it. It's a city, a literal city that's underwater.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to take Meg to the trench because they build an entire, they build an underwater facility in the trench underneath that. Like they build it where all the megalodons are. And then they're like, oh, you got to turn off the light. But how did they build it without lights? I have too many questions, David.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the underwater facility in Meg 2. The trench.
That's a good one. It was also on my list.
How like they're like turn off the lights.
Yeah, like, I love that movie.
Yeah. Oh, it's perfect.
Okay, this is a little bit hard. I was gonna do Meg too. I was gonna do the Meg also.
You can take it.
No, I think I'm gonna do Aquaman for Atlantis. I really like that version of Atlantis.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like it's big and I like that there's like a freeway and you have to pay a toll to get in, and there's security.
It's a real city.
Yeah, like there's like I love people are just waiting to get in. It's like traffic in Atlanta, and it makes me very happy.
I hate traffic in Atlanta so much.
Yeah, so that's perfect. So then I guess what I'll take next is Otagunga, the underwater city in Phantom Menace.
Yeah, that was also on my list.
And you know what's great about this underwater city is the trip there. Like I love that they have to go through the underwater with all the giant monsters. Just like there's always a bigger fish. Like it's such an iconic scene. Yeah. So that's my fourth pick. I'm very happy with that one.
I'm gonna take another oddball one, and I might have to defend it. And this is gonna spoil the movie for Pandorum. So but it's Pandorum because the spaceship is underwater and it's been there for millions of years, creating a city. So like maybe not millions, but it's been there a really long time. So it's technically a city underwater.
Yeah, I mean it's underwater, and it's a city, and it's thousands of people are there.
Yeah, that's a stretch, right? But it fits the criteria.
All right, so I feel like Abyss is too easy to use, right? Like, so I'm not going to use Abyss. Then you know what? I got to give a shout to Leviathan. I'm picking Leviathan because Peter Weller, alien creature, Daniel Stern. Just it's an underwater facility deep under the ocean, and I love it. So I'm going to take my final one for Leviathan. How are you closing us out? This was easier than I thought, David.
Yeah, I here's the thing with the Abyss. I didn't take it because I feel like it's easy, but it's also a must-have in my opinion.
You can have it.
So I'm gonna take I'm going to take the Abyss, but I'm going to tell you a couple of the ones that I also had that are honorable mentions, right? One, the Breach from Pacific Rim. Like, I really stretched it there. It's not a city, but it is an underwater base because the monsters come through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's Sphere.
Yep.
I've never seen it, so I can't really say like anything about it other than I know it's on happens underwater. And then the Deep House, which I thought would be an interesting pick.
Oh man, can I
Yeah.
take that instead of Leviathan?
If you want to take it, yeah.
About it
Go ahead.
underwater. I didn't even think about that. I thought about bases or cities, not a house.
Yeah, it's literally a house underwater.
That's amazing.
Uh,
Oh, I've done an episode. I love that. We've covered that. It makes me very happy.
so do we want to winnow this list down?
Yeah, yeah. Can we? Okay, so we're gonna drop it down to what? You want to do 3 or 5?
You know what? Let's do 3. Let's really force ourselves to pick the best ones here.
Well, okay. I think your creative. Okay, so I love the creativity of Pandorum and Deep House. Like it that we like outside the box thinking. So I adore those two. I think those are really good.
Okay, let's take it. But if we're gonna take those, let's take a
Real one.
A real one. And you know what? I don't think we take Abyss. I think we take Underwater.
Yeah, yeah. That's
100%.
Zero questions. Yeah. I mean, like Rise of Cobra's fine, but I'd rather promote Underwater.
Yeah. And that's it. We have Underwater, Pandora, and Deep House.
Dude, that's really funny. Pandora is a good very funny. Oh man, and I left out Deep Blue Sea, but I picked 2, so that made me happy.
Yeah. Have you covered Pandorum, or will you?
I'm covering it this week with Sanandi.
Yeah, it's great. I love that movie. If just your audience should go watch it, and I'm assuming this is going to come out after that one.
Oh so no, before.
Well, after you listen to this podcast, listen to Pandorum.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, this dude, I know that this movie was tough for me, and I hope people don't think I was being negative or just hating on it, but I just I have to get my thoughts out about it because it's not bad, but it's also so rushed, and the characterization is so poor. But that wasn't that type of movie, so we can't look at this as being like, oh, it's not a movie that had time. But movies that with no time have been better. Mm-hmm. So you can't say it's like a classic of the genre, but you also have to understand its limitations. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to explore that.
Yeah, and that's good. And when I watch these type of movies, I put it against the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. That's my test for, is this movie boring? Yeah. And I think this is better than League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. So there you go.
Yeah, and it's just it makes sense, which is nice. So yeah, I love it, David. Hey, where can people find you, man?
Let's do one more thing before you jump into that.
All right, so one more thing.
So this wraps our Jaws ripoff series. 2 years in the making.
Has it been that long? Yeah, probably.
I don't think it's been 2 years, but it's been a while. I had a lot going on in 2023. What are your thoughts? Like we've done all these ripoffs.
I mean, Alligator and Piranha. I mean, Alligator and Piranha, I adore beyond words. Mm-hmm. Grizzly was fine, but man, I love Alligator. Like Forster's work, and then I forget the name of the actress, but she's perfect in it. He's hilarious. You want to come look at my rock collection? Like it's a very funny, well-made movie. And Piranha just made me admire Joe Dante's work even more. Mm-hmm. So I love those two movies. Just I love that we discovered them and explored them, and yeah, that's my favorite part. I love those movies so much.
For me, the big find there was Piranha. I love Piranha a ton. I love Alligator too, but Piranha is we've done 4, Grizzly, Piranha, Alligator in this movie, but Piranha was a standout for me.
Yeah, it's so. I loved reading about the drinks that you should do and the way to promote it, and just I love that they tricked the army with a fake script. Like it's amazing. It's amazing.
That's so good.
Yeah, no, I'm just glad we did this, man. I love our series, and now we're gonna be. Wait, are we gonna jump into Love and Monsters, or are we gonna do Insidious? Should we just just go for Insidious? Because we should pushing. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So the next movie is Insidious.
Well, not just that, we're doing the entire franchise.
Yeah. Backwards or forwards?
Forwards. That's not a movie. It's not a one you want to hold you backwards. I'm like, you get the 2, like what's going on?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I already bought all of them, own all of them. So I'm ready for the series, man. I can't wait.
Excited.
All right. This is awesome. So Yeah. So for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, and for David Cross. Wait, did you get your stuff out there? Did you tell them where to?
I didn't.
Okay. Here, wait, hold up. No, I'm just really excited to get Insidious going. I'm ready to talk about Patrick Wilson and his cardigans. So, David, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me at It's Me, David Cross, on pretty much all of the social media platforms. I hang out on X/Twitter. I also co-host Award Wieners. It is a semi-regular podcast about Oscar-winning movies. We're gearing up to do our 2024 Oscar guide. Check it out. It's really focuses on sharing a lot of knowledge and behind the scenes about Best Picture winners.
I love it. I love it. And yeah, so this was great. And so for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for David Cross, this movie Sons of Flicks. We'll see you next week.